The thing about this place, it's really linked with Reverend Ure. And, you know, he was our supply priest for years. And we got a reputation back then. You know, when we decided we wanted to build the building, nobody asked the diocese. We just started tearing things apart. Did we have all the money then? No. And so we got we were referred to as St. Luce because we took the attitude it was easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So for a number of years we just did our own thing. And talking about our intimate service here, one of the problems was for some of the supply priests that came, is that Link got us to the point where he'd come down and give a sermon, and his sermons were really short, and then he'd say, "What do you think?" And we would have a group discussion here. And so that can be intimidating. I think we ought to do it at the main church, but we'll see someday. But with smaller groups like that, that's how intimate it was. And it was more of a family.
How many parishioners?
Yeah, how many were in here?
What?
How many parishioners were there?
Well, we started with 7 families and then a group. But one of the interesting things is, if you get into the history and looking at the book of parishioners and stuff, it's what a large number of people who were second homeowners who thought this was home. And I think it's going to be missed by a lot of old people who have been coming to Park City for years, and they're going to come by someday next year and go, "Where is it? What happened to it?" And I think it will be missed.
I like to share my stories. It's kind of stupid.
Come on, it's
But,
a whiskey, Richard. That would be funny.
That'd be funny. I don't know what year it was, but Jimmy Crittenden, who is now dead, but he and I, it was hard for them to get up to the AA meetings that they had upstairs when this sidewalk out here was full of snow. So I think it was my idea too. Jimmy had a big tarp, a big plastic tarp, and we said, "Hey Jimmy, why don't you bring your tarp over here and we'll put it down on the walkway, and when it snows, after it snows, we'll pull it out, and it'll be easy." I said, Jimmy said, "That'd be great." So we did that. We put it down there, and it snowed, and we couldn't move it. So then we decided, just Jamie and I, maybe Don was. I know you were involved in putting it up. Remember that you were always the tallest guy. And anyway, we said, well, let's make a cover for the sidewalk area. So we went over to Home Depot and got, I don't know, 15 or 16 4x4 posts and a couple plywood slabs, a piece of plywood. And so we got it all over here, and we started sawing it with my skill saw, and we found out that my skill saw wouldn't cut 4x4 posts. It would only go 3.5 inches. Well, I don't know how, but it didn't cut it all the way. So we had a jury, and we made the posts, we put the cover on. And that was about, I don't know, 15 years ago. And then we get up to set it up. We had to get, I think Don and who else was that?
John Palmer and
Yeah, John.
Martha.
Yeah, and we all put it up. And anyway, we haven't put it up for the last couple of years because of when we started going to the main church for the winter. But anyway, that's my story.
Or you take it up, put it up and down each year?
Yeah,
Okay.
you helped us too.
Well, I remember trying to do something with it a while back.
It was a little rickety, I might
You know, when they built the house here, it was something with the roof. I think it was a metal roof. I don't know if it's metal or not, but anyway, it was the snow would slide off and come down and hit the wall and then hit the windows. And one of the contractors called me and said, it's snowing really hard, or it had snowed really hard. I think you ought to cover the windows with some plywood or something because it's gonna break the windows. So we got the 3 windows covered with a 4x8 piece of plywood. And the next day, the snow came down on onto the wood. So we were fortunate that it didn't break any windows.
That's the old time when we had real snow.
Yeah.
New people don't understand about real.
Yeah, really.
We had it a few years,
But,
3 years
It
ago.
was,
Well, Jerry, I don't know if you remember, but the January, I can't remember if it was January or February when I interviewed for this position. Jerry was my tour guide. He drove me around to show, anyways.
Jerry and Susan.
Jerry and Susan, yeah.
And Deborah.
And Deborah, yeah. So they brought me up here to show me, but the snow was so high on the side. Do you remember that year, a couple
Yes.
years ago, when it was so high we couldn't even really see most of it. There was snow all around it.
Yeah.
But Jerry, you also led services in this building.
Oh,
Just a
yeah.
few weeks ago when I was sick, you led.
Before Ashley came, John Hunter and I led services, and we were real fancy. Hey, John, you're
Well
supposed to
received
use this
by
or So anyway, that's all.
John Hunter gave a homily one of the weeks I was sick and didn't have a voice. So you guys are still
right.
the dynamic duo.
They did a medical mission down there, and we took down all the stuff for the giveaway, and then they had the medical thing, and while we were doing that, we were serving people food. And I took my motorhome down.
What year was it?
That would have been in the early 80s, we started doing that. And anyway, we served roughly 10,000 meals out of my motorhome. We had the people from the congregation gave us cooked chicken and cooked beef and cooked meat. And we got from the food bank all sorts of cans, and we made soups and stew. And the bagel place gave us, we said we needed some bagels to go down, and they gave us 3 5-gallon or 3 big bags of bagels. And, you know, so we did a whole bunch of missions down there, and I think they still do it, and they still go down, and I would recommend anybody go on that kind of a mission trip. We also did things with the Ute Indian Reservation and Roosevelt and stuff. And there were a lot of things, youth groups went down there, and we took one of the youth group trips, we went to one of the cemeteries there and cleaned up the whole cemetery, and things that were graves that we didn't have markers, but we knew it was a grave, we put crosses on it. And we did a lot of outreach things that, you know, we should do more in that church.
I'd like to go next. This little chapel has a great deal to do with me being an Episcopalian. I left the Mormon Church when I was about 38 years old, so that would have been in 1988. And it was sort of like I was wandering in the desert for about 10 years. I was very, very angry at God. And it took me about 10 years to get over that. But in the meantime, Leslie and I had become friends. We worked at the same company. And I started talking to her and one of the people that worked in her department that I was kind of searching, and they said, well, you ought to try, you know, several churches, but we're both Episcopalians, so I was invited to go to St. James with Leslie's co-worker, and that was my first experience with the Episcopal Church, was at St. James. I did go to the Roman Catholic Church. I had a friend who was Roman Catholic. I went to to church with him. I had a friend who at the time was going to the Lutheran church, so I went to the Lutheran church. The thing that kind of stood out to me for those 3 church experiences is that it was so different from an LDS church service. In that all 3 are liturgical churches. Their services are heavy in liturgy. I really liked that. I really liked it. But in the meantime, Leslie and I were getting closer and closer. So she had actually been going to St. Mark's down in Salt Lake on Wednesday morning to church before going to work. And she didn't want to come to church up here because her husband at the time, not me, but her husband at the time, he was not, she did not think that he would mix well with church people up here. But she eventually divorced him. I divorced my first wife, not because of each other, not because Leslie and I. But it just coincided. And so I started coming up here to church with Leslie. In fact, as we got more serious, she said, "You know, Don, will you go to church with me if we get married?" And I said, "Well, yes, I will." And I always have.
Yes, you have.
But we started coming here. And the vicar, we had a vicar because we were a mission church, not a parish. Vicar Patrick. And I'm sure some of you remember Father Pat. He's the one that told me that my Mormon baptism didn't count and I had to get baptized in the Episcopal Church. But I'm glad that he did, even though that's maybe debatable, but I'm glad that I did. And I was also confirmed by Bishop Tanner. Both of those things happened at the big church, but it was this church where Leslie and I attended for years and years and years. And the church has a special place for me. But I also want to say this. When I watched Craig Worth's and Kirk Cook's presentation about our history here in Park City, their comment, especially Craig's comment, that it wasn't about a building, it was about the people. That really sticks in my heart because we're not about a building. We're about God's work in Park City. And St. Luke's is in Park City for a reason. And it's been here for 130 or so years. But we're here for a purpose. I'm not sure that we fully figured out what our purpose is yet. But I will say this, that I think that our current vestry has moved us farther in that direction than we've been ever before. So I truly appreciate that. Whoever, all of you vestry members that are here, I appreciate that. We aren't buildings. We're the hands that do the work of God in Park City. And we always have to remember that. So while this building is changing hands, some of us feel sad about that. But at the same time, that opens up opportunities for us that we have never had before. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the people like Roger who took care of this building and over the years made it the place that it is. But I'm also grateful that we have an opportunity to move into kind of the next chapter.
Hey Don, when did you start doing the video recordings?
Oh, that was about three and a half years ago. John Swanger and I were doing it together. And before that, John Swanger and Lee Osborne were doing it. But we didn't really get serious about it until about 3 years ago, and then we started making all kinds of improvements and things.
Cause of COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'll never forget that Christmas in the parking lot. Yeah. It's amazing.
Remember the services?
I'm gonna tell you,
Parking
some-
lot?
what was that?
The services we have in the parking lot during COVID,
Uh-huh,
you set up the sound system for those.
yeah.
That was more than 3 years ago.
Yeah. And that's when we got our portable sound system. But the parking lot Christmas Eve service, I don't know how many of you realize this, but we had a debate with Father Charles about the temperature that we have at Christmas time in the evening. And we said, you're asking people to sit in their cars and they're gonna have to have their windows open because they won't be able to hear and all of that. And I said to Father Charles, I think I can figure out a way to broadcast the audio into their FM radios in their car, which is what we did. But Manuel, I have to tell you this. You have to swear you'll never tell anyone else.
Do we need to stop the camera?
Manuel had arranged for Felicia to sing during that service, along with, I don't remember who plays the St. Nicholas character.
Oh, his name is Keith.
Keith something, yeah.
Yeah, Keith something.
Yeah, anyway, he was afraid that their voices would be affected by the cold weather, and he didn't want them to actually sing. Now remember, this was COVID, and everyone was wearing masks. We got the idea to record the whole thing ahead of time, and then I played the recording through my little transmitter, and they were up there with their masks on, pretending to speak. And because they had their masks on, you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell. But
And then while I was playing the organ,
yeah. Anyway, I've talked enough, but that's my story.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hey, I have a quick question maybe for.
But I can talk for hours about rebuilding the building or anything else. Probably the best story to understand that this building is 125 years old. And when they originally built it, like a lot of the old buildings, they piled stones and put wood beams on it. So the main building stopped here, and all four corners of the building dropped over time. They didn't have a good footing. And so as a result, but they had this beam down the middle. The beam down the middle didn't sink. So the floor had kind of a, like this. And in some of the old pictures, you can actually see it because the center here was a foot higher than that wall there. And so, as we said, if someone had a hard night Saturday night, you could usually tell because they couldn't walk straight to the floor. But in the old pictures, you see how the fronts are up. But pretty much, as I was saying, those stained glass windows on that side, see how the top ones are different? Those are all original as far as we know. These, we always had snow come off this side, so like that was replaced and the upper ones were replaced. And most of all the panels are all the same, but some of the big windows had changed. And then the Reeves family donated this window that Pete Park did the stained glass window. But when they put it in, there wasn't a window above the inner doors there. So we cut and put that out so you can see it from both sides.
Does that have to, are these all, are the stained glass, is it stained?
They're what?
Is the stained glass stained? Is there any, are we?
Right.
Coming with us.
I don't know, that probably, that window is going to come out. I think we should keep this window.
So
But-
those two windows are going.
Yeah,
They
they're
will
coming up.
probably be removed in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and, but because it's a historic building, that's really quite restricted. I think if they wanted to take these side windows out, the historic district would have a fit. So the building is going to be saved, you know, they're not gonna be able to make major changes in the building.
Where will these windows go?
Well, we can talk about that later. Let's focus on
okay.
stories for now. But I'll be happy to tell. I'll tell you at the end. I'll answer. How about at the end of stories? I'll answer any questions anybody has
When I
about.
moved to Park City in '94, I thought, I better get to that Episcopal church. So I remember coming to this chapel before I'd moved here and meeting everybody, and I thought, oh, this is the right place to be. And I'll never forget walking out that door, talking with our vicar. Anyway, that was just an aside, nothing special about it. But so I started attending from the minute I came. We used to do EFM in this room, too. We did our classes here, except I got my car towed for being here at EFM. But anyway, so then of course I got involved in the church and spent more time there, but I've always wanted to be back at the chapel. Loved it when I was on the vestry because I could come, you know, and be part of it then. But I also did the flowers up here because they always were here through the special seasons, Easter and Christmas. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I brought my favorite picture of Christmas. They always put a large Christmas tree up right here. And this was my favorite one because we had an artificial tree, but I put real poinsettias in it. And because the chapel, we did the church in red, but the chapel was so perfect in white. So I
The carpet is lovely also. Or
and this is the old carpet. Everything was teal and mauve, which were kind of the colors that they did the church in originally. And so a few years ago when we were doing the refresh, I was responsible for that here. And I came in and took a lot of time, and we painted the walls a whiter white, the same thing we did at the church back in 2018. And so that it lifted and made it a little cleaner and brighter. But I chose the colors for the molding out of the windows. Instead of the teal and mauve, I picked colors that were in the windows. And nobody knows this because I did it anonymously, but I donated this carpet because they said it was good carpet that was going to last for another 30, 40 years. So I don't know, if the new person doesn't want this carpet, I want it. Because I think it looks good in this chapel. It sort of looks a little bit like wood, but not really. And anyway, but I don't know that I have any other great stories. I'm thinking of the one Mary told about the church being so full, and I remember it. We would have folding chairs right out here, and there were over 100 people here. And we would fill it up and outside overflowing too.
And when we did the building to remodel it, nobody said you could move it, okay? It was too fragile, there's not enough space around it. And in the early days, the first thing they did is they did a trussed roof system in here because it used to have an open ceiling. That's why you have this drop down here. But that was to keep the building from falling in on itself. And then when I got involved, we wanted to put a foundation under it. And what ended up happening, corners were rotten. There was a lot of stuff with the building. But what we ended up doing is we cut out the floor and took steel cables across to hold the walls in so they wouldn't fall out. And we ended up putting stilts to support the exterior walls. And so then they did, to do a new foundation, they took those big sonotubes type units, and there's one in each corner and one in the middle on each side. So those are big, huge steel things. They go down like 3.5, 4 feet. And then after they did that, we poured a footing all the way around because the building's up on stilts, and then built the building down onto those footings. And then the other thing that happened is we needed a floor. They ended up putting the heating ducts in the ground, stainless steel, and then this is solid concrete. So this is probably a foot thick of concrete in the main building. That's why trying to move it or anything, it's not going to fall down. It's structurally sound. Yes?
When did all this take place?
That was in '88,
How long did it take?
over a year.
And did you have a professional,
We had a couple different contractors.
That's what I was wondering.
We had a couple different contractors and we had a lot of volunteer labor. And we got two $5,000 grants from the city.
did the city prove it? I mean, was there, did you have to go through?
Yes, we had a building permit.
Okay.
Yes, we had all of that. They made us put in the fire sprinklers
I remember that.
you know, but we started just working on this building and then we were going to come back like 12 feet here because we'd never had a bathroom or plumbing or heat or anything. I mean, originally they had a little wood stove and then we put in some electric heaters and then there was a door on this side with a little room about 6 by 6 and they put a 4-stair furnace there and they laid ductwork on the wood floor on each side with outlets. So then the pews had to move in so that it got narrower here. But, so that was ongoing and then we started on the back space, putting a bathroom and a kitchen area there and I said, well, you know, we really could use another room. And so the way the setbacks were, they said we could only go back like 8 feet or something, you know, which is about how big this was. And I said, well, we really need to go back more. And I went back to the city and said, well, we want to get a permit and go back more and build in there. And they go, oh, that's a setback, you can't do that. So I appealed it and we got a variance for it. They told us we couldn't do it and we got the variance. So then we said, well, we're spending all this extra money. So then we went to the diocese and finally, after we were in the middle of all this, they gave us like $30,000 to build the back section. So, but that's really kind of the history. It just kind of grew and changed as it went along.
When was the big church built? 2001?
No, I didn't
Was it night?
You're asking me.
I remember taking some pews into the big church, and I've been since '99. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll look it up.
who was the rector who was the priest when you were doing the renovations?
That was Link here.
And who came after him? Who was here when I came? Was it a fellow?
I have to look at my notes.
Or was it
We had,
Was it a Father Bob?
so we had, in the
permanent.
70s,
Yeah.
the 79,
Supply
Brian
It
Jones.
was 96. 1996.
96.
Because we met in Parley's Park in the cafeteria. I remember that.
Yeah,
That was very.
well, I should know more. I was head of the fundraising for the new church.
Yeah.
But I can't remember when that was. Yeah, go back and look.
So what was this? Were
Leslie
you,
and I were
were you
married
here
in
when
the
this
big church
became?
in 1998, so it existed.
I was here.
Yeah, it was
What was
96.
this directly before
96.
St. Luke's? What was this property?
Well, so in the history, you'll see that it wasn't really unused until the early 70s. I moved to Park City in 73. And it was about 76, 77 when we moved back into this building. And in the pictures, like in 79, Brian Jones, there's a picture, he was a minister, the supply priest. And there's pictures of that service, but as far as I know, he only did 1 or 2 services here at St. Luke's. And after that, Lincoln Muir was the primary person, but then Father Ed Howlett and Father Fraser Crocker and Father Quentin Coe all were involved in the church at one point or another during those periods. And Link was, but Link became like our rector, and he volunteered his time. He was at Holy Cross Hospital, did the chaplaincy training program, and there's lots of stories about that. There's lots of pictures. You know, you can look into that.
The most story that I remember is when we were here gathered, I was checking out the back room, and there was a couple of clips on there that were really, I thought, interesting. So I went over and I looked at them, and it was somebody getting married. It was my high school friend getting married. And so here was this wonderful picture of my best friend from high school getting married in the Episcopal Church. So that was really wonderful, because I looked at it and I said, I wonder who all those people are. And so I figured out who different ones were. And then I came to that one and I thought, I think that's me. Anyway,
And for
it
those
was
who
wonderful.
remember Paula Matson? So Paula Matson we had the Diocesan Convention in Park City of Prospect. And Paula Matson was ordained in this building at that convention. And we had 150 people here from the convention when that happened, and there's pictures of coming in and out. The interesting thing is the Matson girls, she and her sister, were born in Park City, next door. That was the doctor's office and stuff. And they were born here, and her family bought the building, and they grew up next door. And so there's letters in here from her talking about the old history of things. So Paula and Betty Cunningham was the original name. I don't know. I think, there's some of the stories, like one of the famous stories is that Link Ure busted his foot. And so he had a walking cast on his foot. And there was this service that nobody really remembers the sermon, because he was standing up here doing the service. And my daughter, who was crawling around, crawled up and started playing with his toes. Everybody was watching the toes and not listening to one word of his sermon. But it's the people, the pictures, and the connection with this building is so many people love it.
What are the differences in years between those pictures? The pictures that we see, the facade of.
Well, there's pictures of the original church that burned down in the Great Fire, which was up the street.
Pictures of this.
You're talking about right there.
Standing up, the three pictures.
Oh, these?
Yeah.
Well, this is 88, this is 66, and this is 65. And somebody created these. This is the oldest one, because you'll see the stairs go straight up into the building. And in this one, you see they follow roughly the deal they're doing now. And there used to be a giant tree here in the front, that moving that was a major deal.
And there's pictures of that.
So it was a chapel already.
Books there.
The what?
There's pictures of removing the tree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's very interesting.
there's lots of pictures. I would recommend you look at some of these. There's a lot of old ones, and you can tell, there's wood railings in the front and differences.
Maybe we can pass them around while people tell their stories and people can kind of take.
Yeah, it could go.
I think the best pictures.
And one of the
Alrighty, I hate to follow beautiful stories like Claudia's, because mine is so trivial. So I'll brace it. I'll come up with memories of Lincoln Ure driving up every Sunday on his own time. And his idea of a homily was to, after the gospel was read, so what do you think? And we would just talk about it, wouldn't we, Roger? Yeah. So, but that's the only good story. The other one was one of the many Christmas Eve services here. And I guess my family got here a little bit late, because there was no room in the chapel. People were
There's no room in the inn, just like Christmas.
no room in the inn, except the toilet was free. So
No kidding.
yeah, all the back kitchen was jammed with people. People were out in the cold and snow, and I sat supremely on the throne throughout the service. So those were my memories, and of course, I don't know. Are you sharing Willie's story?
No, you go ahead and share it.
Years ago, we had a wonderful deacon named Willie Hoffer, and she gave many wonderful sermons, of which I don't recall a thing, except for one where she stood up here, looked at the altar, and said, "Every time I, meaning Willie, stand in this sacred space, I look at this altar and I think of all the souls from underneath it that have worshiped here through 100 years." Willie was important here, and she loved this
Notice
church.
there's an old cross over the altar at the new church. That's the original cross that's at the new church. Came off the top of the building. So you can see part of the pieces are missing, but that came off the building when.
The cross
when we
that's
rebuilt it.
hanging?
It's hanging over the altar
Oh,
of the new
yeah,
church.
beautiful.
Also, the bishop's chair is from here. And there's other things there in the church that come from here. And just like the cross, processional cross was donated. If you look at it, sometimes you'll see the date and the family that donated it. But that goes way back. Just like this is a really old piece. That says Easter Day, 1895. And what else?
Can I ask a question? Just because now I'm looking at your book. So,
Yes.
so this chapel, St. Luke's, was deconsecrated on July 15th of 1978.
Right.
Why did that come about?
It hadn't been used since the 40s.
Okay.
And All Saints kind of tried to take care of the building. They'd kind of come once a year and kind of clean it up. And that's when Otis Charles was bishop. And Otis Charles decided that they needed to get rid of it. I think they were going to try to sell it at that point. Nobody, of course, was buying anything like that.
But was it too expensive to maintain? Is that the issue?
It had, it had rotten corners. The floor
Was it too
was,
expensive to maintain?
it wasn't in very good condition. They would use it a couple times a year. All Saints sometimes would come up.
So I have a story about that, Roger, that will support what you're saying. So Wim Ray, who is the senior warden at Church of the Resurrection in Centerville, he emailed me a story that says exactly what Roger's saying, that when he was a boy, I think this was I don't remember if he said it was in the 60s or 70s, he was down at St. Mary's in Provo, and a group of Boy Scouts, this seems like a long distance, but they did some kind of camp out or hike up into the mountains over Guardsman Pass, and they came across the chapel, which was not being used, which I think had I don't know if it was deconsecrated, but if it wasn't being used. And they took brooms and they swept it out, and they sat down with their camp gear, and they prayed, and they held a little service together, and then they left. Isn't that sweet? But there was nothing here except for debris on the inside.
Hey, Roger, so when was it consecrated again?
Yes,
When was it then reconsecrated?
they did that.
I'm reading the article now.
1978?
There's no date.
No, deconsecration.
Okay, it was
Deconsecration was.
1964. It was pretty much abandoned and wasn't being used. And on the cheat sheet here, in '66, it was painted and new front steps were installed. And 78, the diocese decided to sell it because it was no longer being used, and it was deconsecrated July 15th, 1978. And literally the same year, the McComb family, which had, I forget which one of the kids wanted to be married. And the McComb family came in and painted it, cleaned it all up, and so they could have a wedding here. And that's when we approached the diocese and said we wanted to reopen the building.
And that was what year?
78.
Same here?
The same year? Same
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, literally it was, it was July 15th, they deconsecrated it, and that fall, that we reopened the church, so. But, we've gone through lots and lots of bishops here, but that was, and so, it changed and how people looked at it, but.
Roger, when it was just left, were the pews here at that time?
Oh, these are the original pews.
Okay, so
The original altar was taken out by the bishop, and there's pictures of him being carried down the stairs, and apparently it was put in the basement of one of the churches in Salt Lake, where it rotted and fell apart. It was thrown away. So the original altar is gone. But a lot of the other stuff, like there is a pump organ around somewhere that was originally here.
That's currently in Mary Parsons is caretaking. She's in here.
Yeah.
She's the only parishioner we knew who knew how to play it, so it's currently in.
Yeah, it's a pump organ that used to sit over here.
Is that when we came here, Charles invited me to do the do, and I wanted to be a part of that, but sometimes I just didn't think I could get up here and get going or anything, and so I tell him, I says, I don't know, I think I'm gonna stop, and he says, and he, of course, encourages me to do what I need to do. So then the next time comes, and both Charles and I are in the back room, and Charles is walking around muttering into himself. And I'm thinking, what's going with you, Charles? What's going on? He says, I was just thinking about how you always say, well, I don't know if I'm going to be here next time. It's an event, and I'm not sure I can get there. He says, that's okay. So then when we get to the place, here he is wandering around over up here. And I said, what's going on with you? He says, oh, not much. You just say all the time. Every you leave, you think, don't count on me being here. And you've been here every single time. So I laughed.
So, there were lots of other changes, but, they talked about the Boy Scouts coming in. That was a group. There's pictures of people up in the rafters up here because they put in the trusses, but we didn't have any insulation, and so there's pictures of people up there working. So we didn't hire a lot of things done. We tried to do as much in-house as possible. So talk about all the plumbing and electric here was me. And actually the furnace that we have here was put in by the McCombs, and we had ducts on the side. So that's going back, 30 some odd years now. But a lot of different people, a lot of people from the community came in and helped. We had a lot of volunteer labor. Understand that all the excavation here had to be done by hand. So we had weekends where people would come in, and we had wheelbarrows and shovels taking dirt out the front and dumping them in trucks. And the whole back here, that was all excavated by hand. So, there was a lot of, you talk about different contractors. We had at least two different contractors or general contractors kind of lend their name and we're working on it. But there was a substantial amount of work done just by volunteers here.
Did other faith traditions also come and help?
The what now?
Other faith traditions, did they come and help?
For 2 years, the Lutherans used this as their church. And we were very close with the Lutheran Church when they became active. And so and for that 2 years, and actually several years after that, our youth groups were basically together. And there was a lot more interaction of the two churches. I miss that in a way. I think we ought to be more active with the other churches. And you know, I wish Harriet was here. It was interesting, because basically everybody went to the church ended up being on the vestry at one time or another. I was in every vestry position except senior ward. But it was interesting in those early days, which many people don't know, that we have an ecumenical council in Park City of all the churches, right?
We participate, our congregation participates.
The what?
Gail and I and Reverend Sandra participate in that council.
Well, but here's a little bit of history. Up until, for years, well, if you're really old and around here and you talk about the Mormon Church, 50 years ago, the Mormon Church didn't consider themselves a Christian church. And I know that from people I worked with or grew up Mormonism. And they only decided they were Christian much later. And because Park City was the most, had a lot of non-Mormons in it, the Mormon Church liked to experiment with things here. And so the Mormon Church decided that they would like to explore being part of an ecumenical council with all the other churches. They had never done that any place in the world. And they decided to try it in Park City. So at that time, we did not have a permanent priest. So my wife was the liaison to the ecumenical council of churches in Park City. And so the Mormon Church decided they would, this was in December, Christmas time, that they would invite all the pastors of all the churches in Park City to Salt Lake and have a reception. And so the Mormons have their own way of doing things, so we couldn't drive down there. We had to be picked up by a Park City Mormon couple who took us downtown to the church office building, had a reception with the Council of 12, someone there, and then we went over to the tabernacle for their choir, and we sat in the first rows of the church. And this was the first time they had ever done anything with any other churches. So that, there's a lot of little stories like that. Park City back then was a much different place. I actually got a teaching degree in elementary ed, and I did my student teaching at Marsac School. And at that point, let's put it this way, I was much younger and I had a beard. And I was asking about being a teacher in Park City School District. And the superintendent there had been superintendent for years. He was a good Mormon guy. And I was told that I would not be considered as a teacher because I had a beard. But the more interesting thing is that he lived in Park City. He had been superintendent for like 20 years. And his parents, who lived in Provo, had never visited him. And his parents said Park City was a sinful place and they would never go there.
What about the wedding that you had?
Okay. I'll stay here. Hey, but my connection with this little chapel goes back farther even, to 1982. In fact, I just texted my best Park City girlfriend, Donna Delante. I don't know if any of you know her. Her husband, Jim, had right angle picture framing for many years. Anyway, they were married in this little chapel in 1982, and I was a maid of honor. Woo! Yeah. So, yeah, but Rich and I got married June 21st, and it was incredible. It was the most beautiful setting, and it was almost perfect. There were a couple of not perfect things, huh, Reverend Ashley? She would know. But really, it was beautiful. And
How many people came?
we had 19. It was just family, siblings and spouses, and my grandkids and daughter and her family.
I think Susan and I were pulling weeds. When
You were?
I
Yeah,
think
we
we
saw
were.
you out front. Yeah.
And she didn't invite us in.
Sorry. But it was the perfect setting for our little group. And Reverend Ashley was so incredible the whole way through. I mean, that's gonna make me cry, because from our meetings with her beforehand, she was just so willing to do what we wanted within, her advice and guidelines. But they weren't rules. I mean, we had Beatles music for our entry and for entry and as we walked out. So yeah, and family read, and oh my gosh, this was really special. My sister was recruited as chalice bearer, and she was sort of instructed beforehand what she was to say and do. But sort of at the last minute, Ashley recruited her to do all this other stuff. And it was, she was really honored that she did the water for the washing of her hands and all that preparation stuff. And so it was really special to have family members there participating. I mean, my brother was the DJ, and my older brother was DJ, and we invited family members to do, we incorporated them wherever we could, and that made it extra special. And I so wish Rich was here. Rich, wish you were here to celebrate this. But I know that he'll be excited to see the recording, because that really was a special day. Thank you, Reverend Ashley. Hey, I have a quick question maybe for Roger, as I'm looking through the book. So it was deconsecrated in 78, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what we said? But I'm looking at a page here that says reconsecration service, 1988. So what was going on for 10 years?
We were St. Louis.
But it wasn't official.
Oh, we were having service, everything, but the diocese still wasn't sure about us. So.
Okay, so that was.
So
They're still not sure about it.
They're still not sure. So in 80, and that's when we had the diocesan convention. So
Okay.
They reconsecrated it, that convention weekend, and then we had the whole thing, 3 days over at Prospector, and then we had the ordination here at the chapel. It was a busy time.
Okay.
Lisa, that's actually not so unusual. Like if you think about, I don't know, a preacher having a street service and serving communion at a public park, or I know Church of the Resurrection, before they had a building, they met in a bank, they rented a space. You can hold a service kind of wherever you want, but the issue with consecrating is consecrating a specific space for that purpose. But it sounds like they were holding the services here anyway until the diocese got on board with this space and then consecrated.
Yeah, and this might be the only church that would be deconsecrated twice.
Yeah. Does everyone know, since we are all from St. Luke's, you may not know, back here, he just came in, Dr. Stephen McCauley. Thank you for joining us, Stephen. Stephen is a member of the diocese, but he doesn't live in Park City. It was nice of you to come all the way up to hear our stories.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
It's nice
thank you
to
for being
meet you.
here.
I like stories. That's what
Yes, because Stephen is a poet
So, yeah.
and likes storytelling, so who would like
And
to
his
go
feet
next?
show it. Because of what, his feet show it because of Longfellows. That's a joke.
Barry, do you have a story? I would guess that you do, since you said your son got married here.
Well,
Our oldest son got
I did play the guitar in this place once. It was a disaster.
right. They drove him out.
Tell us about it, Barry.
No, there wasn't much going on then. But that only happened once or twice.
This building has spirits in it, and I know that sounds a little strange, but maybe not. But I was on the altar guild here for a number of years, and when I would come in to set up, it was like there was somebody here with me, guiding me the whole way, and it was just a very strange and warm feeling every time I would come. It was weird. It was
Spiritual.
beautiful. Yeah, it was.
They're ghosts.
Yeah, they're in the walls and they're watching.
Did you feel accompanied by the same spirit or different spirits?
It was just something that was there. I couldn't I really couldn't explain it more than that.
I have a,
Yeah, encounters with the whole people do that.
Yeah.
I have a short story. I don't know, some of you may have heard this, especially ladies. I was baptized as an infant, confirmed in the Episcopal Church, and went most of my life. But I guess in the early 90s, for a variety of reasons, I wasn't coming to church. And it really sort of tore at me. But I guess this is really weird, but I didn't have the courage to come for a variety of reasons. And so many times I would ask myself, okay, maybe I should go this week. Maybe I should go this week. And I didn't. And one morning, I was just waking up. I was sort of in that place where you're not awake and you're not asleep. And my soul spoke to me and said, today's the day. I mean, you talk about a spiritual situation, that's kind of where I was. And I knew if I didn't go that day, I wouldn't. And so I stuck my big toe in and I came to the chapel because I didn't have the nerve to go to the big church. I know, I can't even explain it. And I remember walking up this sidewalk and I came in, and I don't know, you guys are probably here. I know Jerry and Susan were here. And it was lovely. It was so nice. And everybody invited us to go to breakfast, or invited me to go to breakfast, and I didn't.
Wasatch Bagel.
Yeah,
That's where
Wasatch
we went.
Bagel. Yeah. And I just kind of needed to go home, but that was the beginning. That was about 8 years ago. And that was the beginning of my journey at St. Luke's. And it was the chapel that drew me in, that gave me the courage to come.
Yeah, it's going to go on.
Wow. Well, that's okay. You know, I can live with that, but it has a special place in my heart.
Well, it'll always be the chapel.
Yeah.
I'd just like to mention Lou Giacomo for a minute. He and I did a lot of work on this place.
Yeah.
And the current sign that's out front, we put that up. Okay?
Yeah, that's great.
It's just amazing that this reopened 2 years after we moved here, because we moved here in 1990, and this is what we had, and it was wonderful, and we were raised in small churches, both of us, and this was home.
Murphy's ready to go.
He's old, he's ancient.
Yeah, well, he hasn't had his heart medicine this
I take it
morning
that Murphy is in charge.
yet. Yes.
Believe it.
I'll bring him to you, Don, and you can put the heart medicine in.
You wouldn't get along with Don
Spits it
Stoggs.
out.
You wouldn't get along with Don Stoggs.
Probably not, no. They've seen Don's dogs.
So many of you know Judy Handley has been around for a while. What some of you may not know, that she was in Macomb, part of the ones who opened the church up here.
She's got a big name in Park City.
Yep.
Yeah.
Roger, who was the person that was in charge of running Thanksgiving meals for the Ecumenical Council from our church? Who was the spearhead on that? I can't remember.
It was the Dales, I think.
Could be
Was it Ann Dale?
It was
Yeah.
Ann Dale and her husband.
For years she took charge of that.
Yeah.
At the high school it was done.
Well, we also had it at the Catholic Church.
Yep.
Out on 224 at one time.
Yeah, that's one of the things. We were a small church, but we seem to be involved in so many
There was a lot.
things. And one of the things that, St. Luke's today, we need to take more ownership in what we do in the community. Because when you go out and you volunteer somewhere, it's not you volunteering personally, it's St. Luke's volunteering. And there's so many nonprofits and things that people in our church are involved in.
Oh, the Christian Center really can use help.
Well, the Christian Center and stuff like that, but Hope Alliance, which does their stuff, they go down to, to different areas and do eyeglass work all over that. I've done a couple of those. I mean, in the past, we went for a couple of years building houses after Hurricane Katrina down in Mississippi. And there's so many things that we've done in the past. And I don't know, it's very well documented how much stuff that we've been involved. And anybody who's looked at the history of Park City, one of the things that I just found out recently after going through all of the stuff, does everybody know who the Silver Queen was? Mm-hmm. She's probably one of the richest person, and her story was she married one miner and he died, and so she married another miner and she kept getting all of these mines. And she's the one that built the huge place in Salt Lake. The movie Unsinkable Molly Brown was probably based on her life. She was a member of St. Luke's.
Wow.
So the history of this building is really a history of the community.
And Jerry Briggs, a current member of our vestry, her family is, the Silver Queen is one of her family members. So she descends from that long, that illustrious line.
And Brandon.
And Ann Bradford, yeah.
Well, I have one more thing, so one more thing. Quick thing, it's just
Yes, good, that's good.
we used to go down to, Rod probably knows the name of the church in
Holy Spirit.
huh?
Which one?
The one, the Union Rod Church.
St. Elizabeth?
St. Elizabeth, yeah.
St.
And
Elizabeth.
I remember we'd get everybody together, we'd have about 2 carloads of people, and we'd drive down for 2 hours and help them paint the church and I don't know what, the ladies did something, and the guys did something, and I can remember painting the church, or painting the school, or I don't know what it was, but you get a brush and you can paint all over it. It was amazing. We went down there 3 or 4 times, I did anyway, and we stopped doing that though, haven't we?
Things change.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my
Yeah,
story.
we were involved with Holy Spirit too, Dad. That's the other one.
Yeah.
The interesting Holy Spirit was built about the time this was, and it's almost an identical building.
Wow.
Same kind of windows, same kind of layout. Haven't been down there in years, but it's another historic Episcopal church. So that brings a little something up. Anybody know about this altar?
What?
Do you know where this altar came from?
Tell us.
This altar, our original altar, as you see in the pictures, the bishop carried it out and it went the basement. So we were reopening the church and stuff. They said, tried to find the altar. Well, they came up with this one. And it turns out that this altar was in a small Episcopal church in northern Utah. And the entire church decided to convert to Mormonism. And the bishop came and deconsecrated the building and took the altar out. And that's where it came from.
Usually the people go from being a Mormon to being a Christian. This was the other way around.
I think it's a true story.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any stories they want to share? When we're done, I can answer the question you have, Lisa, and other questions, but do any of our newer members have anything they'd like to add?
This is my first time coming into the chapel, and I'm really
Right now?
sad.
Today?
Today.
Oh my goodness, Michelle.
And I wish I would have come sooner.
But
it's the community.
Yeah.
You know, you people will all be down at church when I go there on Sunday. So, but it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, what has it felt like for you to just today?
You know what? When I walked in and I saw that window, I wanted to cry. It is just, I mean, and again, I think I feel the spirits of all the people who came before in that mirror, in that window. So, I hadn't really noticed this one, and then I turned around and I saw that. You know, when I came in, because of the way the sun was, I didn't notice, and it's like, that is gorgeous. So I'm really interested in what's going to happen with these windows.
Pete Park, local guy did that.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous, and it means a lot.
Oh, I can answer questions.
I've been carrying this little story around in my pocket for a while about this place, but when I first came to St. Luke's, one thing that I did as a seminarian is I started attending vestry meetings. And the first vestry meeting that I went to, there was a sort of recap of the process of how the chapel had come to be, you know, the decision was made to sell it. So I was listening to this history, but what I was really captured by is that in school we do a lot of study of what it means to be a healthy community. And of course that's not at all about the priest, right? It's about the members and how well they love each other and take care of each other. And your vestry was like a model of what we study in school, in the sense that they were becoming aware of the arising grief and the tension and mixed feelings, which of course was all completely normal. I mean, that's what you expect when change comes. But the tenderness with which they addressed that, to let their minds imagine what it might be like for someone who was very attached to this place, to have to surrender that, right? For the greater benefit of the community and of the city, of this place that we find ourselves. So I'm sitting there just sort of astounded at the deep care and attention that was being given. While also it's coming up somehow, Ashley, I think that she's rescheduling my sermon. She mentions that I don't remember what it was, but I knew I was going to preach on the healing of the lepers that day. And right as that was coming into my mind, like, am I not going to preach on that? I think she texted me. Someone started talking about how to help people transition and grieve. And someone talked about a little bottle, giving people a little bottle where they could take a little bit of dirt with them from this sacred ground. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Naaman. So the story of Naaman is he gets healed of leprosy in a foreign land. And he praises the God of Israel. He's been healed in Israel, proclaims that the God of Israel is the only God, the one true God. And he wants to give a gift in return to the prophet Elijah. And Elijah won't take a gift. And so he asks Elijah if he can take some dirt with him
back to his land in Syria to build an altar, a temple, to mark this holy encounter, this life-changing revelation that he had had. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so Naaman, and what a gift. And we're talking about the movement of the Spirit, and when God gets moving and things come together, or there's this sense of the inbreaking of the Spirit. And that was a moment for me. But right after that, I'm standing in the hall talking to another vestry member, and she's talking about Park City and the gift that St. Luke's is to Park City. And she says, I'm grateful for this dirt.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, you are so preaching right now and you don't even know it. She was like, what are you talking about? So I tell her the story. And so I want to, also call upon what Don was saying, that church is not a building, right? I mean, we can take that little bit of dirt with us in praise of what God has done in this place, but it is the people. The church is the assembled people of God.
Roger has met Joiner's fingernails.
Yeah. And so, you can carry that little token of dirt, but you, the people here, will carry this sacred ground in your bodies forward into the larger community and form it. So I just offer that. You guys really shaped me. Yeah.
So that brings a little something.